Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with our module and we're going to be doing an exercise that's going to pretty much combine all of the things we've learned so far. We're going to be doing a wall jump. So I'm on a new scene here on Maya. We've already set up our project. Remember, just set project here, select the project we're working on and set. And I'm going to say file and I'm going to reference two things. I'm going to reference first my character, which is this Ultimate Tail volume or version 1. Now, if you remember, here on the main curve, we can change this thing to be a fox, which we're going to be using, the little fox here. I'm going to go into lighting and change this to two-sided lighting so that we see the colors on the tail. Now, at first, we're not going to be working with the tail, so I'm just going to turn it off for now. There we go. And now I'm going to reference another little scene that I built for you guys, which is this one called wall jump setup. So you're just going to reference that file and you're going to have this right here. So it's a very simple, just a couple of bevels, a couple of modeling here and there. And it's just to get you started with the whole thing. Now, I don't want you to move these guys, okay? I want you to keep them exactly where they are so that you can copy my exercise. However, I specifically build these things in case you want to practice. You're free to just duplicate, move them around, rotate them, do whatever you want and create your own like little obstacle course for the fox. So I'm going to leave them right there. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select all of the attributes, right click, and I'm going to lock select it. I can't log select it, and the reason I can't is because I'm referencing a file. So I would need to go back to the other file and just reference it. That's fine. I'm just gonna grab this guy right here and just set a keyframe for them. So in case I ever by any reason move them somewhere else, I'm just gonna go back to my frame 1 and I should be fine. So just save a frame there to make sure that the movement here does not change. I'm actually gonna grab all of these guys, all these 4 elements right here. I'm gonna go into my display layers and I'm gonna create a new display layer. I'm going to change this to reference. That way I will not be able to select them and it's going to be a little bit less confusing for everyone involved. Now, I'm going to grab this main curve. Now, remember I talked about this main curve before. We never animate this main curve. However, we can utilize it to place our character on the place of the scene where he's going to start. So in this case, I'm going to move the whole character to this platform right here, which is the start platform. Let's go here. I think right about there seems like a good position. Yeah. And what we're going to do, the animation that we're planning is we want this guy, I'm going to use here the grease pencil to draw. We want this guy to jump, bounce on the wall, do a backflip, and land facing forward. Okay? That's the whole challenge of this element. So we're going to combine again, as I mentioned, all of the things that we've done before. So we're going to be using the animation technique that I've showed before. I'm going to go to my left view in this case. Or sorry, right view. I'm gonna grab my main curve and the top curve, which are the 2 curves that we're gonna be using. I'm gonna hit S on the first frame, and then the second frame, I know that we're gonna have some sort of what's the word? Squash. So I'm gonna squash the character. Again, grab both of the curves and just hit S. And then on frame 3, I know we're gonna have some sort of stretch. So I'm just gonna stretch this guy. Now let's rotate him so it looks like he's like jumping forward. There are some other rigs that allow you to move the stretching point. This one only allows translation, which is fine. Just keep in mind that every single rig is different. That's why it's very important that we analyze all of them. Now the next pose, of course, we're gonna go to like a high point, probably somewhere around here. Let's go back on our rotation to 0, and he's gonna recover his whole shape like this, right? So we got doink, 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 jump, and then if we follow one of the principles of animation, which is arcs, this guy should be following an arc on the jump. So I would expect him to land right about here. So I'm gonna go to the next frame, which is frame 5, move him here, rotate him so that he lands exactly where he's supposed to. And of course, I would have some sort of stretch first. So something like this on the first frame. And then on the next frame, I would have like a really, really intense squash. Probably a little bit of, let's say he grips the wall very strongly with his body. That's fine. So he's going to really, really squash because he's getting ready for the big jump. And then the big jump. So here I would expect to see, again, a very intense stretch. But again, just rotate this guy so that he is facing the upper side. So I would expect this arch now to go all the way over here. So we're going to follow this sort of like arc. Now from here, I am going to go again to frame 8. I'm going to move the whole body of the character right here, and he's going to be doing a backflip. So I need to flip this guy. I would expect him to be roughly about here. Yes, recovering his basic like shape, But I want him to go from here to a rotation, and then on the next frame, he would continue to move following the arc, complete the rotation. Remember we talked about this on the last video where the rotation is gonna be a complete 360 of this side. That's very, very important. So I would expect him to land right about here with a stretch as well, and then land on this next pose 10, say right about there, with a 0 on the translation. So now if we take a look at the animation, we got this. If we just like do like a flip book, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He just like lands. Now it's a matter of starting to play with the timing. So remember, what is timing? Timing is how much time it takes for one action to occur. The longer it takes, the slower the action is gonna look. The faster it takes, or the faster it is, the faster, or the less time we have, the faster the action is gonna look. So I always ask myself the question: from this first pose to this second pose, sorry, do we want this action to be slow or fast? In this case, I want it to be slow. So I'm just gonna grab both curves, very important, both curves, and I'm just gonna push this to, let's say, frame 15. So now, whoop, let's talk this again. So now we got, and boom, the jump. Now from this pose to this pose, should it be fast or slow? It should be fast, right? It's like the release of energy. So I always like to have at least one frame, and then if I don't need it, I'll get rid of it later. So I'm gonna have 1, 2, and 3, just to give it a little bit more transition there, a little bit of an in-between. Now from this pose, the stretch to the high point, is it a slow or a fast movement? It's fast, but not as fast as just the release of the stretch. So I'm just gonna give it, let's say, like 4 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we got the pose. And usually on a jump, you're gonna have the same amount of elements from the high point to the next point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pose. So we get boing, jump, lands, and then again, this should be fast. Yeah, probably not even like 1 frame, like very, very fast. And then I am gonna give it a little bit of a pause here, just for the stretchiness factor. So here I am gonna repeat this frame. I want to keep this frame just 1 more frame. So I'm gonna go here, middle mouse click, and just hit S again. And now I have 2 times the same frame. That's gonna give it some sort of like a stop on the whole thing. It's gonna look like the character is just like breathing for just 1 second, and it's not gonna be like an immediate jump. It's kind of like he's holding to the wall and then he's gonna jump. So now this one is also very fast, that's fine. And then this one, we definitely need a little bit more space, probably like 5 frames or so, because it's a little bit more distance. So we want this, and then probably the same distance from here to here. Let's lower the amount of polygons so that we can see the frames, so we can see them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the frame, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the frame. And then this one right here, let's give it just a couple more frames, because actually here, the next frame or the next couple of frames should be a squash, right? And then we're gonna have a long rest there for the character to catch the breath. So now if we take a look at the timing, we're gonna get this. Okay, not bad, not great either. There's still things that we can fix, but it's a very good start. So we've positioned all the main key poses and everything is looking good. One secret that I tell all my students about animation is the poses. If you make sure that these key poses look the best possible way, everything else is gonna be a little bit easier. It, of course, needs practice and technique, but it's going to be easier. So make sure you always take enough time to make sure that your key poses are as clean and as nice as possible. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to grab this main curve. I'm going to go into my animation tab, and there's this option called Visualize Create Editable Motion Trail. And what the editable motion trail will allow me to see is how that curve is moving through space and through time in this case, and what kind of arch it is creating. I'm not sure if it's pronounced arch or arc. I think it's arc. So what kind of arc it is created. So as you can see, this first arc is not bad. I do think that the landing here on the 25, 26, and 20, like all of these guys, they're a little bit too high. So I would expect this arc to be a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna grab like frame 25, which is the contact, and this guy, I'm just gonna move it down. See how the arc updates. Frame 26, that's fine. Frame 27, let's keep it low. And then 28, he starts moving up, which is fine. So you can see there that the arc is following a nice curve. And also here on frame 33, I think the arc is a little bit like like wrong. So this is where we start like moving the character around. The pose remains the same. It's only moving the location of the element so that the arc looks a little bit nicer. And as you can see, we get this. So nice backflip. Now here, let's just finish this first, and we'll talk about the in-betweens. So 1, 2, there we go. Doing, doing. So now the arcs looks a little bit better, which is what I'm going for. Now it's a matter of asking ourselves, what about the timing? Is the timing right? Like, do we feel like the character is moving at the right pace? I think the first jump is really good, but I do think the second jump's a little bit too fast. So I'm gonna grab, again, both curves. Do not forget, you need to grab both curves. So here, I'm actually gonna set a keyframe on all of the keyframes just to make sure that every single pose has a keyframe. It's something that I usually do, again, just to... Okay, see how there's like a double frame here? So I'm just gonna delete one of them, because we got stretch, squash, and then we just go back. So now what I can do is, again, grab both curves right here. And we can even do this on the graph editor. So if we go into the graph editor here on Windows, Animation Editor's graph editor, I like to dock it up here. And we go to the distance here. Like, it doesn't matter which keyframe, because I know that frame 28, we need a little bit more space in this area. So I can just grab all of these frames. And let's give it like 1 and 2 more frames here. And then grab all of these guys and say 1 and 2 more frames here. And that way, what we're going to get is the following. It's going to be a little bit slower. Okay, not bad. Not bad, not bad. I think now it's a little bit slow, just a tad bit, so it's probably just 1 frame. You can grab both curves. Oh, it seems like I just moved 1. That's fine. I'm just going to grab all of these guys. Let's move it once back. And all of these guys, and just once back. And now the squash and stretch, I just need to move it 1 forward, and all of these guys 1 forward, so that they match. So if I grab both curves at the same time, they should have the exact same keyframes right now. So if we take a look again, oh, a little bit better. I like it. I think it looks good. Now on the falling here, I'm not particularly fond of how slow he is to flip, and this is a very constant thing that Maya has, and that's due to the nature of animation with 3D softwares. Maya only knows that we want the character to be here at frame 34 and here at frame 40, but it doesn't really know how fast we want the churn to be. So Maya just thinks that what we want is for this guy to just like normally flip, but we would actually like this guy to do a quicker flip, so that at this point, roughly at frame 37, he's pretty much already finished his backflip, right? So there's 2 ways to fix this. One would be to go here, and we know that the channel that we're modifying is rotation in X. So if we go here and rotate X, you can see how this curve here from frame 34 to frame 37 is really, really slow. And we can, of course, just grab the curve and just like push it in such a way that it makes Maya understand that we want the twist to be a little bit faster, so that he lands on his feet a little bit better. Or another thing that I like to do is go to frame 37 and just manually say, hey Maya, make sure that this character is doing this flip at this point. So now Maya knows that since we have an extra frame there, let's animate both curves, it knows that it needs to do a faster flip between frames 34 and 37 to make sure that the little fox here lands in a nicer way. So here, I think he should pretty much be landing on his feet. If we need to just move it slightly forward, that's fine. And then it's squash, and then stretch, squash, and then he just recovers his form. So let's take a look at the animation now with that extra in between that I added there. Way better, right? So as you can see, that the little fox here churns very, very fast and allows us to create this very nice effect where he just bounces on the wall very nicely and then just goes all the way to the top. I think I want to modify a couple of things here. Like I think the arc is looking good, but I think we could make it better. So I'm gonna push this guy a little bit further back. Whoop. Just with X here, there. And then frame 37, of course, we're gonna move him back. Frame 40, just a little bit further back, so that the curve's a little bit more that like the bouncing ball curve that we had before. 42, and then 52 should be right around there as well. So that should give this a little bit more of a floaty look. There we go. We can also go to like frame 28 and say, hey, you know what? Maybe at this point, I want him to be rotating a little bit more. Like at frame 31, I want him to really throw his body out. So that twist or the switch is going to be a little bit faster there. Grab both elements and hit S. There we go. Now if we take a look at this, we get this very nice bounce. We could exaggerate the bounce here on the wall. So for instance, remember we have 1, 2, and then we have 2 frames here. We could grab both curves and just give it one more frame, just one more frame, just so that he holds on the wall a little bit more, just a fraction of a second. See that? So just that fraction of extra second there allows us to make it seem like he's actually like holding on the wall and preparing for the big jump. It's just one extra frame, and it completely changes the way that the animation feels. We need to now, of course, discuss with ourselves whether or not that's good or bad. Sometimes some animations will benefit from those extra frames, and sometimes other animations won't. In this case, I think it really is not benefiting that much, so I'm just gonna go back. I think I like this snappy, cartoony feel for the jump. Now I do think that my jump is a little bit too wide, so I'm just gonna again grab this guy right here. The main curve just. We always want the curve, the arc of the character to be as nice. See how floaty that looks? That's what we want. There we go. That looks really, really clean. Perfect. So I'm going to stop the video right here, guys. Make sure to get up to this point. Just do the basic key poses for the character. No tail just yet. And in the next video, we're going to continue with the animation. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.